Imagine transforming into a horrific reaper wielding twin scythes, teleporting through entire maps at breakneck speed while dealing nearly 3 million DPS to bosses and obliterating every enemy in your path with sweeping cold melee attacks. Today I'm reviewing the Harvest Flay Lich, the most exhilarating melee build that combines the speed of a Flicker Strike assassin with the raw devastation of a Grim Reaper, featuring automatic dash mechanics that make you feel like you're teleporting through combat while your enemies freeze and shatter before they can even react. This isn't just another melee build, this is about becoming the Reaper incarnate with incredible movement speed, insane burst damage, and the most satisfying combat flow Last Epoch has ever delivered. Let me show you why this build will make you feel like the ultimate harbinger of destruction, carving through a Terra at lightning speed. This build delivers something that makes your heart race with every engagement. The genuine power fantasy of being an unstoppable Grim Reaper who moves like lightning and strikes like an avalanche. When you transform into the Reaper form, you're not just getting a buff. You're becoming a supernatural entity with massive damage amplification, incredible defensive layers, and the ability to sustain yourself through pure combat aggression. But here's what makes this absolutely awesome. Flay becomes your personal teleportation ability that automatically dashes you into combat while dealing devastating damage. You're not walking between packs, you're flickering through the battlefield like a spectral assassin, and every single dash feels incredibly satisfying because you're clearing enemies and repositioning simultaneously. The synergy between your skills creates this incredible moment of tactical brilliance. Flay generates massive stacks of excoriation through Army of Skin, giving you 169% increased area of effect and 78 flat melee damage at maximum stacks. This means your harvest sweeps become room-clearing devastation that scales exponentially with every Flay attack. Combined with your insane dexterity scaling giving you 2 flat cold melee damage per point, you're watching a perfectly coordinated combat system where every attack amplifies your power and every slain enemy feeds your momentum. The movement speed scaling through Velocin's Jaw transforms dexterity into pure velocity. You're not just powerful, you're the fastest melee character on the battlefield. This isn't standard melee gameplay where you lumber toward enemies. This is explosive, dynamic combat where you're dictating the pace and enemies are desperately trying to keep up with you and your supernatural speed. What makes this build absolutely captivating is how every skill creates this perfect rhythm of death and devastation. Let me walk you through this gorgeous combat orchestra that makes every engagement feel like a masterclass in melee domination. Reaper form is your foundation of power. This transformation provides incredible offensive and defensive buffs that fundamentally change your combat capabilities. The Haunting Node applies Mark of Death, reducing all enemy resistances by 25%, which means every enemy becomes significantly more vulnerable to your cold damage onslaught. Soul Shroud and Vile Shroud grant you resistances and armor based on your intelligence, creating this brilliant defensive scaling that makes you tanky while investing in offensive stats. Flay becomes your primary navigation and buff generation tool, and it's absolutely genius in design. Army of Skin transforms every Flay attack into stack generation for excoriation. At maximum stacks, you're getting 169% increased area of effect and 78 flat melee damage for both Flay and Harvest. This creates exponential scaling where your clear speed ability directly empowers your boss damage ability. The automatic dash mechanic through skill tree investment makes Flay feel like flickering through combat. You're selecting enemies and instantly appearing next to them while dealing damage, creating this incredible flow where movement and damage dealing becomes one seamless action. Harvest is your devastating finisher that benefits from all your Flay stacking, with full cold conversion through shatter and nodes like Death Inside, Symbol of Loss, and Finality maximizing damage. Every Harvest swing hits like an avalanche. The area of effect from excoriation stacks means you're not just hitting one enemy, you're cleaving through entire packs with sweeping arcs and cold devastation. Against bosses, you're cycling between Flay to maintain stacks and curses, then unleashing Harvest for those spectacular 2.5 million DPS moments. Aura of Decay provides constant damage amplification and defensive benefits. Converting it to cold with Cold Death ensures everything in your damage profile benefits from resistance shred and penetration. Vulnerability and Fume Weaver enhance damage output while Absence of Life, Inoculation, and Respite provide crucial defensive layers that keep you alive during aggressive positioning. Transplant ties everything together as your emergency repositioning and resource recovery tool. Acolyte's Favor grants haste and frenzy, Bone Armor provides damage reduction, and Pale Blood recovers mana. This single skill manages mobility, offense, and sustain simultaneously, creating perfect combat utility. The offensive scaling of Harvest Flay Lich is brilliantly elegant because everything synergizes into exponential power growth. The foundation is dexterity stacking. This single stat becomes your primary damage multiplier because both Harvest and Flay gain 2 flat cold melee damage per point of dexterity. With 266 cold damage from dexterity alone in optimized gear, you're seeing how investment in one stat creates massive baseline damage that multiplies through all your other scaling mechanics. Army of Skin creates this incredible buff system that rewards aggressive gameplay. This isn't a minor buff, this is build-defining power that transforms your harvest from strong to absolutely devastating. The 8-second duration on the Cold Curse from Flay and the 30-second duration on Excoriation stacks means you're maintaining buffs easily during boss encounters by flaying every 8 seconds, while primarily using Harvest for damage. The weapon combination creates perfect scaling synergy. Traitor's Tongue in your offhand grants flat critical strike chance and skill levels, making every swing more likely to critically strike while improving skill effectiveness. Velocin's Jaw provides massive damage, skill levels, and movement speed that scales with your dexterity. This single weapon turns your offensive stat into mobility, creating perfect optimization where damage investment equals speed investment. Mark for Death from Reaper Form's Haunting Node reduces all enemy resistances by 25%, while Flay's Corrosive Slash applies exposed flesh for additional 15% cold resistance reduction. You're stacking resistance shred that makes enemies dramatically more vulnerable. This is multiplicative damage increase that affects every single hit your build produces. The critical strike scaling through Traitor's Tongue, passive tree investment, and gear affixes creates these spectacular burst moments where critical harvest swings delete boss health bars in single hits. Combined with high attack speed from Falcon Fist and gear optimization, you're not just hitting hard, you're hitting hard frequently, creating sustained DPS that melts endgame content. Against high health enemies, you're dealing 50% more damage, which means your already impressive DPS becomes absolutely monstrous against the content that matters most. This scaling ensures that bosses, where damage really counts, are exactly where your build performs at peak effectiveness. Here's what makes this build incredibly liberating for aggressive melee gameplay. You achieve practical immortality through brilliant defensive layering that lets you position fearlessly and engage any content with complete confidence. Reaper Form provides you foundational defensive power through Soul Shroud and Vile Shroud, granting resistances and armor based on your intelligence. This creates beautiful scaling where offensive stat investment simultaneously improves survivability. You're not sacrificing damage for defense, you're getting both from intelligent stat allocation that respects your aggressive combat style. The Lich scaling is absolutely insane through Accursed Feast, providing ridiculous health recovery that keeps you at full health during sustained combat. As long as you're dealing damage, which is constant with your high attack speed and multi-target coverage, you're recovering health so quickly that most incoming damage becomes irrelevant. This creates incredible aggressive positioning opportunities where you can stand in mechanics that would kill other builds because your recovery outpaces incoming damage. The intelligence scaling through passive tree investment provides free dodge chance. You're sitting at 37% dodge with optimized gear, which means more than 1/3 of attacks simply miss you entirely. This is incredible damage mitigation that doesn't require any active management or defensive positioning. Transplant provides emergency repositioning with bone armor's damage reduction, creating that crucial oh no button for situations where positioning becomes dangerous. The mobility combined with instant damage reduction means you can reset fights and recover when mechanics become overwhelming. This defensive mastery creates pure melee bliss. You're diving into the center of enemy packs, tanking boss mechanics that would terrify other builds, and playing with the confidence of someone who knows their recovery and mitigation can handle anything the game throws at them. Once you've mastered the basics, the advanced techniques elevate this build from good to absolutely spectacular. Stack management becomes second nature once you understand the timing. Excoriation stacks last 30 seconds, while Cold Curse from Flay lasts 8 seconds. This means during boss encounters, you're flaying every 8 seconds minimum to maintain the resistance debuff while primarily using Harvest for damage. The rhythm becomes intuitive. Flay, Harvest spam, creating the perfect rotation flow. Understanding the dash distance optimization through Flay's skill tree transforms map clearing into this incredible experience. With skill points invested in dash distance, which you can afford thanks to +8 skill levels from gear, you're covering enormous ground with every Flay activation. You're not clicking towards enemies and walking, you're selecting distant targets and instantly appearing next to them while dealing damage, creating flicker strike style mobility that makes mapping feel incredibly fast and satisfying. Buff timing mastery ensures you're maximizing damage windows. Transplant provides haste and frenzy that you want active during boss damage phases. Learning to transplant before major burst windows means you're amplifying your highest damage moments, creating optimization that separates good players from exceptional ones. The positioning mastery comes from understanding your defensive profile. With insane leech and high recovery, you want to position aggressively to maintain constant damage dealing that feeds your sustain engine. Standing at range or playing cautiously actually makes you more vulnerable, because your defense relies on dealing damage. Embracing aggressive melee positioning and trusting your leech creates fearless gameplay that maximizes both offense and defense simultaneously. Mana management becomes effortless once you understand the recovery system. Harvest provides mana on hit and kill through Ghost Conduit, while Transplant provides mana through Pale Blood. You're never starving for mana like traditional mana stacking builds because your combat rotation naturally generates resources. Using Transplant during mapping for mana recovery while gaining movement buffs creates perfect resource management. Movement pattern optimization for speed clearing means using Flay's dash for horizontal movement between packs while saving Transplant for vertical movement or emergency repositioning. This creates two movement tools that complement each other perfectly. Flay for offensive mobility that deals damage, and Transplant for utility mobility that provides buffs and recovery. The key insight is embracing the aggressive melee playstyle that your defensive profile enables. You're not a cautious character who carefully engages. You're an aggressive Reaper who dives into combat knowing your recovery and damage output creates safety through overwhelming offense. The boss encounters with Harvest Flay Lich showcase this build's incredible design philosophy. You're not surviving encounters, you're dominating them through perfect synergy between offense and defense. The 2.5 to 3 million DPS against high health enemies proves this build's capabilities against the content that matters most. The 50% more damage against high health enemies creates perfect scaling for boss content. Your already impressive DPS becomes absolutely monstrous against major encounters, ensuring that the content requiring highest damage output is exactly where your build performs at peak effectiveness. This scaling philosophy respects player time. You're not struggling through lengthy boss fights, you're efficiently clearing them through overwhelming damage. Phase management during boss encounters creates tactical depth without frustrating complexity. Understanding the decisions when to stack buffs through Flay, when to burst with Harvest, and when to transplant for resources and positioning create these engaging gameplay moments that reward mastery without requiring impossible execution. What makes these encounters special is how commanding and powerful you feel throughout. You're not micromanaging complex rotations or worrying about survival. You're executing an elegant combat strategy that leverages your build's strengths perfectly. Every victory feels like a testament to intelligent build design and your mastery of the Reaper combat system. After countless hours playing Harvest Flay Lich, what keeps me absolutely captivated isn't the incredible power. It's the pure satisfaction of the most exhilarating melee combat experience Last Epoch offers. This build fundamentally redefined what cold melee gameplay can be in RPGs. It's not about slowly walking toward enemies or carefully managing defensive cooldowns. It's about explosive, aggressive combat where you're dictating pace through supernatural speed and devastating damage. Every moment feels dynamic and impactful. When you Flay dash across the screen, instantly appearing next to distant enemies, when your Harvest critical strikes freeze and shatter entire packs simultaneously, when you're maintaining perfect buff uptime during intense boss encounters, these moments create genuine tactical satisfaction that makes every victory feel earned through superior mastery. The power scaling is incredibly liberating. Instead of worrying about whether you can handle content, you're confidently engaging any challenge the game offers because your offensive devastation and defensive sustainability create consistent reliability. Your build isn't hoping to survive encounters. It's designed to dominate them through overwhelming melee superiority. This build proves that the best RPG experiences combine incredible power with deep tactical satisfaction and exhilarating gameplay flow. You're making meaningful decisions about gear optimization, skill rotation, and buff management, but every choice feels natural because you're so invested in perfecting your Reaper's effectiveness. The accessibility combined with incredible depth means new players can immediately enjoy commanding the Reaper through content with satisfying results, while veterans can spend hundreds of hours perfecting advanced techniques, testing optimization theories, and pushing corruption limits. That's exceptional design that respects both immediate fun and long-term mastery. The unique gameplay identity sets this build apart from every other melee option. The combination of flicker-style dashing, massive area of effect scaling, cold damage devastation, and aggressive sustain through leech creates something genuinely unique that you cannot experience with any other build or character class. Harvest Flay Lich isn't just a build, it's your invitation to experience the most exhilarating and powerful cold melee gameplay Last Epoch offers. Whether you're new to melee builds and seeking an explosive introduction, or a veteran player wanting the ultimate Grim Reaper fantasy, this build delivers an experience that will make you excited to log in and carve through enemies at lightning speeds every single day. Now, if this Lich build isn't your cup of tea, but you still want to play the Acolyte class, then I recommend you this Necromancer build that I also used as a season starter. And if you're new to the game or still on the fence about playing Last Epoch, then check out my video about what Season 3 offers. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and ringing that bell, and I'll see you in one of these two.